Okay, so now we're getting into the swing of things, baby. It's week 4 in the NFL season, and the games are getting good. So how do you get involved in all the great matchups this week? You use the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. All new customers bet only $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly at the DraftKings Sportsbook. So why not bet that 5 and get these bonus bets? Come on, man. We trying to get y'all caked up. You know what it is. You love your team. You love watching football. Staying on the action with the DraftKings Sportsbook. And if you're not a new customer, I'm not going to forget about you. All customers can get in on 2 different offers every single game day this September. So go now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use my promo code DCTV to get started. Bet 5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. We always want something more, and DraftKings is doing that for you. Let's go. All right, guys, I'm back at it. You know, last week I did this thing with my cousins. I appreciate the support. It was amazing to sit with those guys and talk MMA. We'll continue to do that. But you still got to get your boy from time to time. And something jumped off the page to me today on Instagram. I was scrolling, and I saw Aljamain Sterling, a guy that we spoke about last week, in depth, talking about Sean O'Malley and him fighting the best fighters. Aljamain was competing in Polaris, I think it's called. He won the jiu-jitsu competition. Phenomenal grappler, phenomenal champion, and really was a pillar of what you want from a champion in the UFC. He was active. He fought anyone. He fought anytime, and he fought very often. When you are that type of athlete, you expect the rest of the world to do the same thing. Here's the problem for Aljamain Sterling. I don't think he's wrong, but he does have it wrong. How does Aljo have it wrong? Aljamain Sterling won the belt from Petr Yan, then beat Petr Yan, then beat Henry Cejudo and TJ Dillashaw, then fought Sean O'Malley, lost the title. This all happened in a very short period of time. Why? Why? Because when Aljo won that belt in such a controversial way, people didn't really respect him as the champ. Aljo was hurt, guys, very, very badly, got neck surgery. The moment he got back, he started to fight again. He loses the belt to O'Malley. Immediately, you know, UFC starts to move on. Nobody's looking back at Aljamain Sterling, even though he had defended the belt as many times as anyone in the division. He had beaten the best of the best in the history of the division outside of Dominic Cruz. And he had looked so good in doing it. He was active. He was doing everything right. But it was on to the next. Now it looked like Chito Vera was going to get a title shot, not Merab Dvalishvili, who is one of Aljamain's partners. So Aljo, after the competition today, says, Mr. Sean, he calls him Sugar Tits. I think that's what he calls him. He goes, fight me and give me my rematch, or fight Merab. Do what I did. Fight the number 1 contender. Stop ducking. Here's the issue, Aljo. It's not the same. It sucks, but it's not the same. And I'm going to tell you why it's not the same. It's not the same based on decisions that the champ made, or the former champion Aljamain Sterling made. Why? Because I recall when he won or defended his title for the first time in Jacksonville, he said right away, I'm going to take some time off. And Ryan Clark and I were talking about this on our show, and I said, Ryan, he'll be back sooner than he's saying. I go, because they're going to back the truck up to him, and they're going to pay him. And when they pay him, he's going to say, okay, I want to fight. I'm going to take this extra money. I'm going to go fight. He said it was going to be like July by the time he'd be back. We saw Aljo in April or May in Newark, right? It was much faster than he originally anticipated. I said immediately, this dude's going to get active. He's going to be very, very active. He's going to be put to work more often than most champions. And that right there is why it's different than Sean O'Malley. Because Sean O'Malley has shown time and time again that he is going to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. And he's done it publicly. From saying he wanted new contracts, even though he had contracts, to saying he wasn't fighting a 5-round fight until he was making the money that he felt he would require to fight a 5-round fight, to sitting after he beat Petr Yan to wait for a title fight. If you believe that there was no fights offered to Sean O'Malley over that time between him beating Piotr Yan in that very close fight to him becoming the champion, you're crazy. They probably offered, but O'Malley moves to the beat of his own drum. And it does not matter why. Why? You can be convinced. The moment you're convinced, there's a number or a list of numbers that the UFC has as an organization where when they need someone, that's who they're going to call, especially the champions. Israel Adesanya is another one. Is he's going to be up to fight and he's going to be game? So they'll call him. Most times he'll take it. That's why he's headlined so many fights in such a short period of time. I don't care if it's money. Aljamain got a new car or something in between the fight with Henry and Sean O'Malley. I don't care if it's a car. I don't care what it is that allows for you to be convinced. But because you're convinced in that one instance, then you start to get called anytime the organization needs you. And that's what most bosses do, right? They call the reliable person. I was that. I was the person that they could call, whether it was 3 weeks, whether it was 6 weeks. From the moment I fought Dan Henderson on short time, I fought Derek Lewis on short time. I fought many title fights on short time because they called me. When I won my first belt, short time. But the moment I was okay with that, the moment I agreed to it, every time somebody fell out, every time there was an issue, they called me, hey, DC, what you think? That's what Aljo did. Sean ain't going to do that. He's proven that. As I stated earlier, from the contract negotiations to the amount of time he's willing to sit, to the type of fights. People were always talking about the matchups that Sean O'Malley received on his way to the title. He had to take the matchups put ahead of him or say no to them, knowing that even though you said no, something else is going to come back in your direction that you'll be okay with. Sean, we want you to headline a fight night. Nope, I ain't doing it. He plays by his own rules. And I think because he plays by his own rules, that is why he will not have to live in the same way that Aljamain lived as champion. Is it fair? How much in the world is fair? How much in the world is fair? Is it wrong of the organization? Absolutely not. You can go to a grocery store. You can go to a business. It does not matter. They always rely on the person that you can count on. Aljamain became that. And ultimately, that thing that made him so special to the fan and to me, the guy that's the grinder, I love Aljamain Sterling. I love his ability to fight anybody, anytime. He's the champ. He don't care. He's still fighting these dudes. As much as that made me love him even more than I did before, it ultimately is going to be the thing that makes it hard for him to get what he ultimately wants, that title fight. Because if Sean O'Malley doesn't feel like he wants to fight him, he won't be forced. He will not be forced. And the more his star grows, the more input he will have on what his journey looks like. Is it unfair that Aljo doesn't get a title fight right away? Probably. With all those defenses? Absolutely. I'm taking that back. No, probably. Absolutely. Aljamain should get a title fight. He should get a rematch. But he won't. Because O'Malley's not looking back. Does Merab deserve a title fight? Absolutely. Does Merab deserve a title fight more than Chito Vera? Absolutely. What's the likelihood of Chito Vera fighting before the Merab and Aljo for the title? Pretty damn certain. They've got the backstory. They've got the history. They fought the same night. And Sean O'Malley wants to fight him because he wants his get back. So ultimately, all the reasons that I chose to love Aljo, or you did, is ultimately what's going to cost him. And don't we want the gladiator? Don't we want the guy that's willing to die on his shield, the guy that's willing to fight time and time again? Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in today. And Sean O'Malley could fight in December. Sean O'Malley could fight in January, February, March, whatever the case may be, it'll be on his terms. He has shown us that time and time again. He won't be pressed. From his very beginning of his time in the UFC, you knew he was a bit special. Obviously, he had the Snoop Dogg rub, but you also knew that he thought differently. And you see it in all sports. Sean O'Malley is one of those athletes that's taking that same approach. It has to make sense for me in order for me to do it. It is what it is. But Aljo, trust me, the respect that you have gained from us will never be questioned. But it'll ultimately be your undoing. And that kind of sucks. But I am certain Aljamain will get back on the horse and put himself back in position to where he will not be denied. Because you got to remember, he was undeniable. That's why he got the title fight in the first place. He had beaten everyone. There was nobody else to fight. And I'm sure he'll be able to do that again. But we all live in Sugar's world now, baby. So we all got to kind of play by his rules. Aljamain Sterling will look to the next thing. I don't know what Merab's going to do because he should be waiting. But is Merab willing to do what Sean did? Sean waited a long time to get his title fight. And that may be what the Georgian may have to do in order to find himself standing across the octagon from Suga Sean O'Malley. Or maybe Chito Vera. I guess we'll see. Guys, till next time, like, subscribe, tell your friend to tell a friend that DC's got a YouTube channel. I'm dropping content like this. Till next time, peace.